Hey guys, what is up? I hope you're having a fantastic day so far, and Steven Universe Future is here. It doesn't seem like that long ago that it was first announced back at New York Comic Con back in October, so within 2 months we already have it, so that's pretty incredible that we are already getting it so soon. And these 4 episodes did not hold back. I think these are some of the best episodes that the franchise of Steven Universe has ever had. So I'm going to break them down, just give you my thoughts, review each episode, have a little discussion here, just a casual little discussion. Be warned, if you haven't seen any of the episodes of Steven Universe Future yet, I will be spoiling and going over everything, so just be aware of that. But with that, let's get into it. So before I get into the episode Little Homeschool, I just kind of wanted to go over some of the more general things about Steven Universe Future. We have the new opening, which we already saw when it was first announced, Steven Universe Future, which is great. I like the opening. I think I'm always going to have a special place in my heart for the We Are the Crystal Gems. I mean, that's just so iconic and classic, but this opening is great. I mean, it literally includes pretty much every single character you can imagine from Steven Universe as a whole, which is really cool how they put them all in that opening shot. So that was pretty cool. Now we also have new title cards, so we don't have the hand of the statue of the temple anymore. We are in a car, which I'm assuming Steven is driving, and we see that there is a picture of Pearl, Garnet, and Amethyst on the driver's side mirror that's taped above. And then in the rearview mirror, we actually see that this person, again, I'm assuming it's Steven, driving away from Beach City. Now, I'll get into the end credits stuff later, but I mean, I think that this could be symbolism in some way of where Steven Universe Future is going to be heading. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to go over the opening and then the new title cards, just kind of little stuff that I noticed in there. But the first episode that we have is Little Homeschool, and this was storyboarded by Paul Villico and Drew Green. Now, unless I'm mistaken, I think this is Drew Green's first Steven Universe episode ever in the whole series of Steven Universe. Paul Villico has been around since the very beginning, so we might be seeing some new board partners kind of getting worked out here, which I'll be really interested to see who ends up getting paired up with who. But Little Homeworld was a very strong episode to start out Steven Universe Future. And I feel like this episode kind of answered the questions that we had at the end of Steven Universe, at the end of Change Your Mind. Kind of what happens to the gem, what happens to the corrupted gems, where do they go after that, how has Little Homeworld evolved, because this also takes place after the movie as well. So this kind of answers the questions about how they cure corrupted gems. We see Steven pouring like the essences of the other diamonds into a bathtub, and that's how he uncorrupts them, that's how he heals them, and he kind of takes them through the rehabilitation process, almost in a way, of being integrated into this new era of gem society, of living on Earth. If they want to go back to Homeworld, they can do that as well. And it was kind of cool seeing that process of taking a gem from a corrupted state to, you know, letting them be their own people. And the first 2 episodes really focused on this, but Little Homeworld kind of focused on the how everything is done, which I really liked. Again, just kind of answering those questions that we were left with, like, okay, well, what happens now? We also see that Kimberly Brooks voices another one of the quartzes. This is the one that Steven cures in the beginning of the episode. And I just want to give props to Kimberly Brooks because she has like insane range. You can hear a little bit of Jasper, but I mean it's like a lighter Jasper kind of sounding. It's incredible how much range she has. And then she actually voices some other characters that we'll see a little bit later in a future episode. But there were also nice little things in this episode, just like there's funny stuff like the info pamphlets that Steven hands the quartz gem at the very beginning about like it being in English and then gem, and then they're working on a Spanish translation, so there's little funny moments like that I think are just kind of that classic Steven Universe feel of comedy. But we also get some backstory on like all the townies. So Lars opened up a bakery, which is building off of his character from the Ube role that we saw before. Sadie and the suspects are touring, I guess. I don't know where they're touring, but it's kind of crazy that, you know, this little band out of Beach City is now touring somewhere. I don't know if it's in the country or worldwide, but that was cool to see, and especially like how Sadie's grown and how the cool kids have grown, and just what an unlikely friendship that seemed, and to see them succeeding at their band was really cool. And then we get Connie, who is getting ready to apply for college, and I love the little reference here of like the lo-fi anime, you know, chill beats to relax and study to reference there. I think that's great. I'm sure someone is going to loop that, and then you'll just be able to have Connie while you listen to your lo-fi chill beats. So I really liked that stuff. I like how Garnet is teaching yoga and meditation. I like how Pearl is teaching how to use human tech. And then I like how Amethyst is in charge of, like, choosing what you want to do, because, I mean, Amethyst is the perfect example how she's supposed to have this class, and then just, like, nope, so, like, I'm gonna have lunch with Steven. I like that the Crystal Gems are taking initiative in helping these newly healed gems from the war and rehabilitating them to get acclimated to Earth society, or if they want to go back, they can go back to Homeworld. But I like seeing them each have a role in this process at Little Homeworld. But then we get to one of the other big burning questions that I have had since, you know, season 3 of Steven Universe. What's gonna happen to Jasper? What's going on with Jasper? And I like that this episode just kind of came out with it, because it's been, like, Jasper has been bubbled since Earthlings. And then we saw a little bit of her at the end of Change Your Mind, and it seemed like she was cool, like fine with, I guess, what was going on. Amethyst was there to comfort her, like, immediately. But Jasper is kind of, like, off on the outskirts of Beach City, just being, like, a grumpy little teenager kind of a thing. Like, she's just very angsty. She doesn't want to go back. She doesn't accept Steven as his diamond. She's still kind of living in the past and in denial. And this was just a really interesting interaction to see, because this is something that I think we've all been waiting for such a long time. And there is so much tension between Jasper and Steven. Steven losing his cool, I think, the most we have ever seen Steven become angry or upset at something. And not necessarily that he feels like Jasper owes him for saving her, but he wants to see her succeed. He wants to help her, and this is something that Amethyst brings up in the episode, that Steven has to stop trying to help everybody, but it's in Steven's nature to try and help. And obviously this does not go well with Jasper. They end up getting in a fight. Even Steven's the one who's like, yeah, let's fight. You know, Jasper kind of puts it out there, not thinking that Steven's gonna say yes, but when he says yes, let's fight, like, Jasper turns around with, like, this such joyful expression on her face and, like, a little bit of shock, going, like, really? And we get to see Steven and Jasper fight. And one of the things that I liked in this fight sequence is that Steven is so much better with his powers, which is really great to see how far he has come. So if you compare, like, Gemglow to Little Homeworld, I mean, it is such a stark contrast of where Steven was there to where he is now, and it's just so great to see his progress. And especially with fighting, since Steven has always tried to take, like, the pacifist route. I mean, when he needs to fight, he can, and that's shown here with Jasper. And Jasper is loving this fight. She loves combat, she loves proving herself, she loves feeling dominant over other people, and Steven obviously doesn't. This is kind of just like an anger, just way to get rid of some of that anger, I think, in a way, in fighting Jasper, but it's, you know, it's pissing Steven off that Jasper is enjoying it so much. And then when Jasper calls out that Steven has never beat Jasper on his own, he's always had friends there, and it's always been as a fusion. And this is where we get to see Steven's new power come into play, and this is going to be like a huge overarching thing this entire season, or series, I don't even know how long this is going to go, but this is going to be something huge, because it's when Steven seems to be emotionally distressed that this comes out. Now, when we first see this, we don't know if it's just kind of like an in the moment, like fight or flight kind of thing, but as we see in future episodes, it seems to come when there is some sort of emotional distress, whether it's anger, sadness, stress, something like that. It's when Steven feels mentally or emotionally weak. And so when Jasper calls him out, he, you can see the tears in his eyes, he's getting upset at this, and that's when he fights back. And Jasper loves it. Jasper's like, this is great, like, you're fighting back, you're giving me a challenge. It was so interesting to see this relationship between Jasper and Steven, because before that, they were, like, seriously enemies. But now it strikes me more as kind of like a rivalry almost in a way. And then even at the end of this fight, Steven asked Jasper if he could be taught by Jasper, kind of like a mentorship kind of a thing. And when Jasper talks to him, like, she puts her hand on his shoulder. It's like such an interesting dynamic here, and I'm so excited to see where this goes, because before it was just anger, fight kind of a thing with Jasper. It's been memed to death, like the whole Rose thing, whatever. Jasper just wanted to fight him and pummel him into the ground, but now there's some sort of, not necessarily a balance within their relationship, but in a way Jasper and Steven see a little bit more eye to eye, because that's kind of more of like a sign of respect almost in a way, when she like kneels down and gets down to Steven's eye level and puts her hand on his shoulder and just says, this will be the only lesson you're getting from me. And I feel at some point Jasper is going to in some way actually be a mentor to Steven, which I'm super excited about, because I personally did not see her character going in this direction. But I think Steven wants to better learn how to control his anger, how to control his emotions a little bit better, because he saw Jasper like enjoying the fighting, and then he's there getting pissed off and angry about everything. So yeah, super curious to see how that goes. Very interesting dynamic between Jasper and Steven, kind of like a rivalry, mentorship kind of a thing. I'm super excited to see where it goes, and this was such a strong episode to start off this series with. But the episodes from here, like, they're still really solid. The last two of these, like, especially. But the next episode that we have is Guidance. And Guidance was storyboarded by Amish Kumar, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, and Aaron Austin. Now, Amish, I'm assuming it's Amish. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But Amish Kumar was a storyboard revisionist and then became a storyboarder, I believe, the latter half of season 4 and then through season 5. And I believe this is Aaron Austin's first storyboarding role. So again, we're kind of seeing how maybe the pairs will work out for the rest of the series of Steven Universe Future. Now, Guidance is kind of building off of what Little Homeschool was, where gems are being rehabilitated and kind of getting integrated into Earth society, where we actually see that they're doing like an internship program where they're taking jobs around Beach City, and this is something that Amethyst actually fronted, but you see that like the Rubies are bodyguards, the Quartzes, who are like an army, are in Funland, and we kind of get to see what they're up to. Like, one of the gems who had pincers was the like slicing gem at the pizza shop. So it was cool to see the jobs that they're performing in Beach City. And then we actually get to see Ian Jones-Cordy. He voices one of the gems, which I believe was Snowflake, and he is like the one that makes snow cones on like the boardwalk and stuff like that. So really cute, fun stuff like that. Now the thing is that these gems each picked their jobs that they wanted to do, and Steven's not too thrilled about that because he feels like he wants to get them out of their comfort zone, which I understand the logic where Steven is coming from. He doesn't want this to be like Homeworld, what they were doing in the past, where there was like a hierarchy and these are the jobs that you have to do and the jobs that you are created for. But Amethyst is the one protesting, like, no, they pick these jobs, they like them, they're good at them, and so Steven, you know, again, being Steven, wants to try and help them, but this kind of backfires because he puts them in jobs that obviously they are not suited for, that do not go well, and that they actually have to end up saving people from these jobs that the gems are kind of ruining a bit. I mean, there's fire, there's planes that are almost crashing, there's roller coasters that can't stop, there's just all sorts of stuff. But this gets to Smoky Quartz, so it's always great to see a fusion. And Smoky Quartz looked really great. I think this is probably one of the better designs of Smoky Quartz that we have gotten in the series. And I don't know if there was like a Sonic reference, but Smoky Quartz was running and they said, gotta go faster. So I don't know if that was like a Sonic reference or something like that. But during this, we see that Smoky is getting distressed that they cannot save everybody. They're worried that there's not going to be enough time for them to get to everybody. We see them distressed. And then that Steven part of Smoky Quartz, we see this power come again. We see that power that we saw during the fight with Jasper. And Smoky is able to save everybody. It's almost like everybody's going in slow motion. So I'm also curious if, depending on the fusion, what fusion Steven is in, if that alters the powers based on what fusion he is. Because we did not see like a slow motion kind of a thing during the fight with Jasper. Steven just seemed to get stronger, just was able to punch Jasper and she just went flying through that forest. Trees were getting knocked over. But with Smoky Quartz, they were able to go quicker. Everybody else was in slow motion and they were able to save everybody. So maybe it's based on the fusion, maybe it's based on what they need in that time, because Smoky Quartz said that they needed to go faster, and then all of a sudden they're faster. So really interested to see if this power, this new power that's awakening in Steven, is somehow going to alter its ability based on the situation or fusion. But this circles back after the catastrophe, this just dumpster fire of a situation with the internship program for the gems. Steven and Amethyst are talking and they both kind of come to terms, and, you know, Steven apologizes about trying to take over what Amethyst has created with this gem internship program, and Amethyst obviously understands where Steven was coming from, but there's no shame in picking a job that you're good at and that you like, because at the end of the day, these gems picked their own jobs, and what Steven was doing was telling them what job they should do, which is just like it was on Homeworld. So I really liked that, and I also really love Amethyst's arc, because she started out as a runt, she started as someone who was looked down upon in gem society, to being a leader and taking initiative in helping these gems. And I'm sure a gem that these, you know, previously corrupted gems are looking up to and grateful and appreciative for taking the time to help them and to get them rehabilitated and get them to a happier place in their life. So I absolutely loved where Amethyst's arc has come to, and I mean, obviously there's still more development in the works. We have an entire season or series of Steven Universe Future, whatever it ends up being, but just from where Amethyst started at the very beginning to where she is now, one of my favorite arcs that's in the show. But next we have Rosebuds, and this was boarded by Lamar Abrams, who has been on the show for forever, and Adam Muto. And Adam Muto used to be the board partner with Rebecca Sugar when they both worked on Adventure Time. So to see him board one of these episodes was great, and I mean, man, this was a hell of an episode for him to board. So this episode starts off with Steven trying to find a new spot for the Rose portrait, and I mean, we saw before in Steven Universe, the movie, that the Rose portrait was moved, and, you know, I didn't really understand the reason why for it, but it's because Steven doesn't feel that Rose should be looking down on them, like the Crystal Gems, Greg, just the Homeworld gems that are coming in and out, who are in Little Homeschool. which I thought was interesting because it wasn't something that was brought up or mentioned during the movie, but now Steven's even more in a position of like, yeah, no, like this, she should not even be, you know, on the stairs. She should not even be looking at us from the stairs. Like, so he's trying to find a new place for it, and it kind of gets dropped until the very end of this episode. But one of the other questions that gets answered within these first few episodes is, what happened to the zoo? So we got to see Y10 and J6, I believe is what they're called. And it's funny because they want nothing to do with Greg. They are so mad that Greg did not choose in any of them, which was funny to see, just them have this kind of like pettiness, kind of like a bad breakup kind of a thing, which I thought was kind of cute and endearing. But we get to see the Amethyst, and they're doing well. Like, the zoo has kind of almost become like a resort, and the humans are actually kind of in charge of it now, and the Amethyst, all the gems just kind of are chilling. But, you know, I mean, the humans are relaxing as well. They're not under control. They don't have a schedule or anything like that. But we actually see Holly Blue again, which was great to see. And she is not doing well because there is absolutely no order. There's no orders at all. There's no anything. So she's kind of like, she doesn't have a purpose. She has nothing to do, and you can see that she is not doing well in this circumstance. But it was nice to see Holly Blue again. It was nice to see the zoo humans again. It was nice to see the Amethyst. But the biggest thing that I have been wondering ever since this was first shown is what happened to the rose quartz gems. And we find out they are all unbubbled, but very interesting because the first rose quartz that we see looks exactly like the form that Pink Diamond took when she masqueraded as a rose quartz gem. Now, unless I'm mistaken, I believe the rose quartz gems were voiced by Kimberly Brooks, voice of Jasper, which makes me feel that Kimberly just kind of voices all of the quartzes for the most part. But man, she has some range to go from Jasper to the rose quartzes, because they are all so interesting, because they're very friendly, they're curious, but they're also like laid back and inquisitive and kind of have that deep philosophical perspective in a way. And it's so interesting because when I started to see their personalities, I was like, oh, these are like all kind of personalities of our rose quartz or Pink Diamond, which was so weird to see. I was like, well, are they all like this? Did she pretend to be like that? Did she like see them interacting, and then after a while she's like, oh, this is how I have to act, and then changed her form, you know, to look exactly like one of the ones that is here at the zoo? It was just such an interesting and odd situation. But man, I feel bad for Greg and Pearl, because Steven wanting to be nice and wanting to include them and not wanting any of his feelings of his mother to harbor or get in the way of his relationship with these rose quartzes, invites them to dinner. And of course Greg like walks in and just bolts immediately. But I mean, Pearl's sitting there and she looks uncomfortable. Garnet's uncomfortable. They go hiding into the bathroom. But we actually get a reason as to why the rose quartzes are so much like Pink Diamond. It's because Pearl says since Pink Diamond made them, that's why they're so similar, which is interesting to think that like the diamond that makes them, those gems will pick up personality traits from their diamond. It was very interesting to see, because I mean, we've seen other gems obviously who have served other diamonds before, but it was just very interesting to think about that personality traits could be passed down in that way from gem to gem. And later, you know, in the episode, we see that that's not necessarily the whole truth, because the rose quartzes pick up that Steven's uncomfortable. The one specifically is the one that looks like our rose quartz, and then they even come clean and say, Steven, we're kind of uncomfortable from this too, because your mom caused us to get bubbled for, you know, thousands and thousands of years. And we see that they're not all completely just like the super happy, friendly, kind of childish one, or the kind of laid back, philosophical one, or like the more serious one. You know, they're not all just that. But I like the resolution that kind of comes out of this, is that they're all more like siblings, since, you know, Pink Diamond created Steven, and Pink Diamond also created all these rose quartz gems. So I kind of like that conclusion, that they're siblings, but also it's just kind of weird because, I don't know, just like one of them looks exactly like the form that Pink Diamond took, but they're siblings, even though she looks like Steven's mom. It was just like, it's kind of weird, I mean, if you really think about it, but I do kind of like this sibling relationship that they've formed, and I look forward to seeing them more in future episodes, because I think there's a lot more that we can uncover, especially about the one that looks exactly like the form that Pink Diamond took. Was there a history specifically with those two? Is there a reason why she picked that specific look for her, you know, disguise as a pink quartz soldier? So really looking forward to that, because I have a lot of questions there. But at the end of this episode, we circle back to Steven finding a place for Rose's painting, and that ends up being in Lion's Mane. And we see that the chest is open, which we saw during the Steven Universe movie, so I mean, this isn't anything new, but man, I really want to know what was in that chest, because I haven't seen anything that would be in the chest, but I really want them to go over it. But I do kind of like where Rose's portrait ended up with her stuff. I think that's an appropriate place after all the stuff that she did. I think that's an appropriate place for that portrait. And especially now it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. And with the next episode, Volleyball, man, you know, if we didn't dislike Pink Diamond enough as is, Volleyball definitely gives us another reason to, and Volleyball was by far my favorite episode out of these four. So really quick before I actually get into Volleyball, the one thing I want to point out is that within these first four episodes, the title card has been the same time of day. If you remember from Steven Universe, based on what time of day it was in the episode itself, that was the time of day it was in the title card. And so I'm curious to see if this title card is going to change at all during, you know, based on the time of day, what's going to happen in the episode, anything like that, because that was something I was really looked forward to when a new episode of Steven Universe came on, was what time of day is it, is there anything extra going on in the background. It was kind of like a fun little intro to the episode before the episode even started, just like seeing the title card art. So I'm really curious if that's going to change at all, or if this is going to be the only title card that we see. But anyway, this episode was storyboarded by, and I'm so sorry, I'm not even going to pronounce this name because I have no idea how to pronounce it, and I don't want to butcher it that badly. But this is their first episode storyboarding, and then we have Maya Peterson, who has been a storyboard revisionist. So again, just seeing, maybe these are the pairs that are gonna stick, maybe not. But this was a fantastic episode, and I am all for this pairing if this is the kind of work that they're going to be doing on this series of Steven Universe Future, because my god, this was like lore, this was like a Pearl episode, so of course it's my favorite because it's Pearl. This was like emotional, this was like everything that you look for in a Steven Universe episode, and I absolutely loved every single minute of it. So with Volleyball, we see that Steven is almost like a doctor in a way. He like brings gems into his house, and if they have like a problem, if they have a cracked gem, he heals them. He even has like a little doctor's getup, which was really cute. I just love seeing little stuff like that. That's even at 16, Steven is kind of this very fun, lighthearted kind of character. It was nice to see. Like, it's nice to see that even though Steven is older, he's still very much the same very kind-hearted person he has always been. a little bit quicker to temper, but we might see that has something to do more with these new powers that are coming out. But yes, very, very much the same character, just a little bit quicker to temper, bit more mature in understanding that he can't always solve everything with being a pacifist in the situation. But I'm really curious to see, outside of just the movie and these 4 episodes, how Steven's maturity and his, him being from 14 to 16 is going to change or develop his character even more. But anyway, we get to see Pink Pearl, and my god, Pink Pearl was another question that was like burning in my head after Change Your Mind. Wasn't in the movie at all, so I'm like, oh god, what happened to Pink Pearl? But she goes to Steven to try and see if she can get her eye fixed. And when Steven tries to heal her, he tries her gem first, which doesn't work, and then he tries to apply it directly to the spot of the injury, which also doesn't work, and his powers are working fine, so he tries to ask Pink Pearl what happened, and we find out that she can't remember anything that happened in the past 8,000 years when she was under White Diamond's control. And so Steven obviously assumes, like, oh, the White Diamond must have done this to you, but no, she actually remembers that it was Pink Diamond who did this too. And we see that Steven's new powers flare up again at the mention of his mother doing it. So again, it's not necessarily a specific emotion, but it's when there's some sort of emotional distress that Steven feels. So Steven goes to find Pearl, our Pearl, and she's the one who is the, I don't know what it's called in volleyball, like the judge? I don't know if it's a judge, but she's the ref? I don't know volleyball terms. I know like sports terms for like football, baseball, basketball, and hockey. I don't know volleyball, so I'm sorry for any volleyball players or enthusiasts out there, but she's like the ref. The ref? I don't know. She's like the ref for the volleyball game. So they go to see her, and initially when I was thinking like, oh, this is called volleyball, this is gonna be like Pink Pearl and Steven playing volleyball with the other gems. Nope, that is not what happens at all. They go to Pearl for help to try and understand what happened to Pink Pearl, and even our Pearl believes that it was White Diamond who injured Pink Pearl. And we see Steven's powers flare up again. He turns pink because he knows that it wasn't White Diamond, it was his mother. But even Steven at this point is like, okay, this is too confusing because you're both two Pearls who belonged to my mom at some point at different points in time, so I'm just gonna call Pink Pearl Volleyball. And like, he ran out of like ideas, I guess, for like nicknames. I guess he nicknamed the Rubies, pretty obvious stuff too, but he just saw a volleyball, he was like, alright, you're volleyball. Which does, for me, talking about this episode does make it a lot easier to discuss this episode instead of having to refer to our Pearl, Pink Pearl, whatever Pearl. Now it's just volleyball, so that does make it easier for me to talk about. But during this conversation, we see that volleyball is still very much like in love with Pink Diamond, very similar to how our Pearl was in love with Pink Diamond. But it's funny because Pearl even makes a comment like, oh, looks like somebody still has it bad, which also just shows, like, in that one line how far Pearl has come from, like, being dedicated to Pink Diamond and making excuses for her and just, like, never seeing any faults or flaws in her, to being like, oh man, like, you still have it bad, which shows that not necessarily that Pearl has completely gotten over Pink Diamond, but she's definitely moving on from that love, from that just constant admiration of it, which I thought was nice, just in that one line that we got a lot of character arc and development to see where Pearl is at. But we finally get some insight and backstory into how pearls are made. This is something I've been wondering for so long, but they're made in a place called the Reef, and it's this really cool, like, clamshell looking structure, and it's like beautiful inside, and it seems that they have like these fans and these like ribbons and stuff that are the weapons for pearls. So I'm wondering how Pearl got a spear, because Volleyball has like a ribbon wand kind of a thing. So I don't know if maybe Pearl had something like that at first, but then eventually just got a spear. She was able to change her gem weapon somehow. But very interesting. But there's also like kind of like an operating system, kind of like a Siri kind of a thing, called Shell, who guides Steven, Volleyball, and Pearl through this process of trying to heal Volleyball. And we see this kind of back and forth between Pearl and Volleyball, and we saw this a little bit back at Beach City when Pearl even says, like, oh, you remind me a little bit of myself when I was younger. And then Volleyball goes like, oh, I'm older than you. And even now when they're going through the reef, we see that Volleyball is still holding on to the stuff from the past, and Pearl is trying to get her to let go of that. So very interesting to see that dynamic there. Now, when Volleyball is being examined to be healed by Shell, that they don't find anything wrong with her. They say that there is nothing wrong with the gem itself. The damage that's sustained is something that is more psychological to Volleyball. And we see like the fear in her eyes, like she knows, she understands what that pain is, what that fear is, why she has her injury. It was wonderfully boarded, like that facial expression that she has. And she even tries to play it off like, oh no, I'm fine, like there's nothing wrong. But there's something wrong, and we find out that it was Pink Diamond who, well, I guess we already knew that, but Pearl finds out that Volleyball was injured from Pink Diamond, and at first this was very hard for Pearl to accept, and we see that there's that argument again going back and forth between Pearl and Volleyball, and we see that Pink Diamond was very different from her time with Pink Pearl to the time that she had our Pearl, or rather Volleyball to Pearl. Very childish, had a lot of temper tantrums, very angry, could not keep secrets, and I guess when Pink Diamond wanted her own colony, she went to White. White said no. Pink Diamond got angry, and Volleyball just kind of brushes it off as like, oh, I was just too close. But it seems that Pink Pearl might have been more of a punching bag for Pink Diamond before, which is just such a I mean, not that abuse hasn't been covered before in the show. I mean, the whole Jasper Lapis situation, even just Pink Diamond in general and how she treated others. But I mean, this part specifically where Pearl's saying like, no, she kept all of her emotions hidden. She had to be very secretive and selective with who she trusted, and she was a healer. She didn't attack anybody. It was interesting seeing that dynamic and to see how different Pink Diamond was between Volleyball and Pearl, but still very much the same in the way that she still hurt people around her, which was very interesting to see. And during this argument between Volleyball and Pearl, we see Steven's powers flare up again at the mention of his mom, a very emotionally stressful situation. He gets angry, yells at both Pearl and Volleyball, and we actually see very similar to in Change Your Mind when he screamed, where it broke part of the ground. There's like a sound wave, and we see instantly that Volleyball is like cowering in fear. She's hunched over trying to protect herself, and like this, like once this scene happened, this is what Pink Diamond was doing to Volleyball when she got angry or upset. She was yelling, screaming at her, maybe not her directly, but it was kind of like that outlet, again, like a punching bag almost in a way. And we see in this moment when Steven like looks down, he sees what he's done and he's shocked with himself. He's kind of scared of himself in a way. But because of this lashing out, Shell sees that both Pearl and Volleyball have upset him, and so tries basically to reset, kind of like a, you know, factory reset of both pearls. And we see, this is like one of my favorite scenes probably just in this show, Steven Universe Future, is both these pearls talking about their experiences with Pink Diamond and how they both have made excuses for her, how they try not to blame her. And Pearl, obviously, who's had more time to kind of deal with this and come to terms with who Pink Diamond was and what she's done, you know, tells Volleyball, like, you've been hurt badly by her, and Volleyball is still trying to make excuses for her, but kind of comes to the realization, like, oh, is that what I'm doing? And she's crying, and they're gonna be destabilized, and it's just like, oh no, why? Both these pearls, I love pearls so much, just all pearls. I love all the pearls. But Volleyball asks Pearl, like, how did you stop hurting? And that's when Pearl hugs her and embraces her and says, I didn't. And that's, you know, that's so true. Situations like that, you don't ever completely get rid of that pain. You're always going to have a little bit of that hurt left. You can move on from it, but it's kind of like a scar. You know, the damage is done, is always kind of going to be there in a way, but you can still move on from it and improve your life. And in this moment, both Pearl and Volleyball understand each other. They were on two opposite sides where they couldn't understand how Pink Diamond could be so different between the time that she had both of them. But during this moment, they understood each other, and that causes them to fuse, and we get a Pearl fusion, and oh my god, this is probably one of my favorite designs for a fusion. It looks great. What is it called? Like, I know it's Sailor Moon, but I know it's a specific show. For me, it reminded me of Sailor Moon, but there's like, what is it, Magical Girl Utena? Is that what it's called? Because I know it has like that same like style where it's like the black silhouette kind of animation, and like this animated scene where they're like running through the hallway trying to escape Shell and the defense system. It was so good. Great design, solid animation. I liked the reference to the Magical Girl Utena. I think that's what it's called. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't watch it. I watched Sailor Moon, but I did not watch that. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. And I loved when they got back. They were still fused, and Steven apologizes to the Pearl fusion, and she goes, no, one of them couldn't understand that Pink Diamond wanted to change, and then one of them couldn't understand that Pink Diamond wouldn't ever change. Volleyball thought that Pink Diamond would never change. This is how she was going to be her, you know, entire existence, this childish, tantrum-throwing kid. And then Pearl saw Pink Diamond as someone who wanted to change but struggled with it in some ways. And they finally reached that understanding with each other, and they unfuse, and it's just the two pearls just holding hands, just looking out at the sea with Steven there by their side, and then the episode ends. And it was just such a good episode, and I love it so much. I'm definitely gonna go back and watch it like probably 20 more times because it was so good. Solid way to end this hour-long special of Steven Universe Future. But I do really quick want to talk about the end credits. So we have new end credits. We have a new animation sequence for that, and just a new song in general. But it has to do with the car again, and we see again, I'm assuming it's Steven, driving away from Beach City. And again, I'm wondering if this is going to be like symbolic of where Steven's character arc is going to go. Is he going to end up leaving Beach City? Is something going to happen where he feels like he needs to go? He has some other purpose, either on Homeworld or whatever. I may be looking too far into it, because it's also just like a nice aesthetic, just like the title cards and then the ending animation sequence of just driving in a car at night, you know. Very just like kind of very relaxing. And me personally, like, I think nighttime or like car rides at dusk, very relaxing, just very therapeutic for me personally, so I just really related to that. But the music here is called Being Human. If you watched it air on cable, you probably didn't hear it, but on the Cartoon Network app, they uploaded all of the episodes with the music in the end credits included. It's called Being Human. I think Aivi and Surasshu did an incredible job with this. It's very different from Love Like You, but it reminds me of Animal Crossing in a way. It's kind of got this very like chill bossa nova-esque kind of vibe to it, and I really love it. And I believe the singer on it is Emily King, if I'm not mistaken. I believe Aivi tagged them in a tweet about the vocals, but cannot wait to hear the rest of this song, because it's so different from Love Like You, and I love Love Like You. Probably my favorite song from Steven Universe, since it's just so, one, iconic, and one, how it relates to so many different characters and kind of like the overarching theme of Steven Universe. But yeah, very excited to see what the music does, like how it captures Steven Universe future as a whole, like Love Like You did with just Steven Universe. But yes, fantastic 4 episodes, absolutely loved all of them. Super strong start to the series, super excited to see where it goes. I mean, if they came out like this, I mean, they came out punching with these episodes, and I'm just super excited to see where Steven Universe future goes from here. But yes, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, because I would love to hear it. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day, and until next time, guys, take care.